Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Remember the first time that Mando Bro arrived on the planet of Nevarro? It looked like shit even from space, and when you got closer to the ground it just got even more uninspiring. The whole area was covered in newly formed rock formations, and not in a beautiful way like in New Zealand or Iceland, but more like the aftermath of an orbital bombardment strike. Nevarro City looked like any other neglected Outer Rim trading post. It was a place without decoration or care, as if the people living there were hardly surviving and focused only on the bare necessities, and didn't have the time or luxury for indulgence in any way. Do you guys remember the planet of Ferrix? That's where Andor was from. Ferrix might not be the richest place in the galaxy, but a lot of care was placed into decorating this city. The people who lived here definitely loved Ferrix. But on Nevarro, you just didn't get that sense. It was almost as if everyone was either hiding in their house or just using Ferrix as a place to lay low before they ran off to the next city. The city's main cantina, a place where you should see locals gathering and having fun, was a place of business. This is where Greef Karga, an agent for the bounty hunting guild, could be found, and he was the closest thing you could find in the city that represented some type of authority. And by authority, I mean he had a bunch of cold-blooded killers and mercenaries on his payroll, and if he paid them a certain amount of money, they would do his bidding. Not out of loyalty or love for the city of Nevarro. They were just here for business. And that's exactly what business looks like in a place with no law and order, and this is probably why Nevarro was such a terrible place. And believe it or not, Greef Karga and his bounty hunting guild was friendly compared to the other two factions that called Nevarro their home. First, you had a bunch of Imperial Remnant forces. These were the most fanatic members of the Empire who, even years after Palpatine's death, continued to carry out his last order and plans. And then directly below them in the sewers, you had a tribe of the Children of the Watch, who were a part of an orthodox Mandalorian religion. Both groups didn't like to get bothered by outsiders and probably didn't pay any taxes. Well, actually, by the looks of it, there's probably nothing really worth taxing on this planet in the first place. And so I, like the rest of you, was shocked to see Nevarro looking completely different just 3 years later in the third season of The Mandalorian. As a matter of fact, when Mando arrives on Nevarro, I think the way that most people recognize the planet was not by the planet itself, but by the fact that Greef Karga was there. And this time he's not just an agent of the bounty hunting guild, he's the High Magistrate of Nevarro, and things look so much better now that the planet is in his capable hands. And it starts out with that amazing outfit of his, complete with a cloak so long and luxurious that it requires 2 tiny robots to hold up its tail. Nevarro City has transformed just like Greef Karga. It's now bright, clean, and lush with vegetation, and considered a gem of the Outer Rim. So what happened to Nevarro? What differentiates it from all of the other failed backwater worlds in the Outer Rim? How did Greef Karga achieve this epic turnaround that has him talking about landed gentry and prime housing lots instead of the usual Outer Rim nonsense? You know, food shortages, crazy exotic xeno diseases, and of course bandit raids. Well, we've kind of beaten this issue on this channel to death, but here it goes. You guys know why every government from Old Republic to New more or less ignored the Outer Rim? Well, it's because the Outer Rim was simply too large, and there are too many threats in the Outer Rim as well, and not enough people to justify any large security presence out there. And so the Outer Rim was trapped in this cyclical kind of pattern of nonsense. You don't have enough stability or people to invest in the area, and without those investments, no one's gonna wanna actually live out there, and this would continue on for most of galactic history. But then comes Greef Karga, who's a really interesting character, and he might also be the perfect person to solve Nevarro's many problems. You see, this isn't Greef Karga's first time as a magistrate. Before he was an agent for the Bounty Hunting Guild, he had served as a magistrate in an unknown location, and he did something so terrible that he basically lost a job and was disgraced for his actions. Whatever he did, whatever the case was, the point is Nevarro now has a magistrate, most likely a very skilled individual with questionable morals. Most likely, Greef Karga won't be able to return to wherever he came from because of that disgrace. And so right now, Nevarro has a huge advantage here that many other Outer Rim planets don't have. It's attracted a big shot administrator who probably is used to dealing with much larger operations. One of the huge mistakes that people make when they're trying to plot regime change is getting rid of everyone who belonged in the former government. Governments are huge bureaucratic machines, and they're actually filled with a bunch of experts and professionals who often don't really care much about politics and are only focused on running their specific departments. These people are incredibly important, and without them, most countries would not be able to operate properly. And America found out about this during the invasion of Iraq. We foolishly removed every member of Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist Party from government, not just the high-ranking members, but like every public servant. And what we found out was that the Ba'athist Party had such a strong grip on government for so long that there are actually no other people who are capable of doing these jobs. And it took quite a long time to retrain people to get things functioning. Skilled administrators like Greef Karga can be really hard to find, especially in the Outer Rim. And yes, the man clearly has some morality issues after he sided with the Empire and declined against Din Djarin, but he did ultimately make the right choice as well. I can only surmise that Greef Karga also had a similar lapse in judgment when he was a magistrate in his prior job, but still, a slightly morally questionable magistrate like him is a lot better than a pirate king or a bandit lord. At least Greef Karga seems to understand what he's doing. The man's a natural delegator for one. Remember that first mark that Din Djarin took down, the blue mithril guy? Well, he was an accountant for Karga before he tried to steal his money and run. Greef Karga also quickly poached Cara Dune when he realized that she had a talent for law and justice and cracking skulls with those meaty thighs. Greef Karga understood the importance of peace and stability and how that was key to attracting more business, economic value and investments to this planet. And there's no better way to create peace and stability than by adhering to a set of rules and standards. And as an agent of the Bounty Hunting Guild, Greef Karga had a uniquely difficult job at doing just that. He basically had to serve as a liaison between the guild and all of its bloodthirsty members. Greef Karga had to negotiate prices, settle disputes with some very rough, tough people. Yet ask anyone, ask any bounty hunter, and they'll most likely prefer working in the Bounty Hunting Guild compared to just freelancing, and that's because of the stability and safety that the guild gives to its members.
You know, I really should thank you. You're my ticket into the guild.
You're welcome.
Not only did Karga do a great job at managing so many degenerate killers, he also was really good at keeping them from killing each other. As I said, the man has natural leadership skills. When Din Djarin decides to betray the Imperial client and takes baby Gokurt from him, he would set Greef Karga and Nevarro on a one-way journey to prosperity. Din Djarin would kick off events that ironically removed not only the Bounty Hunting Guild, or at least most of the Bounty Hunting Guild from the planet, you'd also remove the Imperial Remnant's presence and also the Children of the Watch. First, Din attacks the Imperials in their hideout, then Karga attacks Din Djarin with the Bounty Hunters, and then in round 2, Din Djarin comes back and Moff Gideon arrives as well, and there's a massive shootout which destroys a good portion of Nevarro. Luckily, Greef Karga chooses the right side and survives this ordeal. And so now with the Bounty Hunting Guild, the Empire, and the Mandalorians more or less gone, well, it creates a perfect opportunity for Greef Karga to rebuild everything.
Nevarro is a very fine planet, and now that the scum and villainy have been washed away, it's very respectable again.
And with Republic Special Forces war criminal Cara Dune by his side, peace and stability would finally return to Nevarro as well. Well, actually, they have to first take out one last hidden Imperial base on the planet, but after they do that, well, it opens up an opportunity for the locals to finally invest in their homes and the areas around their homes. And that's because they know they can actually build stuff without fearing that it'll get blown up. And Nevarro, despite being a rocky and desolate looking planet, had one big advantage. All of that volcanic activity also created a lot of nutrients in the soil, and so the first big improvement we see on Nevarro is greenery. It's everywhere. And yes, excessive foliage is one of the best signs of a very rich society. Not only does vegetation look nice and provide a sense of serenity for the people walking around it, it also decreases the heat in urban environments. And we see vegetation not only in private houses, but also in public spaces, which means that there's actually now a local government doing things, which is definitely a step in the right direction for Nevarro. Now, I actually returned from Singapore recently, and they have a citywide initiative to add greenery on all of their new constructions of skyscrapers, and these are the results. I think it looks absolutely lovely, and given the fact that it's always like 90 degrees in Singapore, I think it's a great move. And not only is there vegetation here on Nevarro, the streets are now also much cleaner. You can actually see the cobblestones, which are quite a luxury when compared to the usual dirt and sand roads we've seen in the Outer Rim. You need a craftsman to cut all the stones into smaller shapes, and then you need to actually lay all of these stones one by one. It's a lot of work, and it costs money. We also see children and musicians running around in the street as well, which translates into families and entertainment. two signs that we're seeing more permanent type of population growth on the planet. Nevarro is no longer just full of a bunch of ruffians passing through looking for work. Families are the cornerstone of any large city. They are the ones who plant their roots, grow, and expand, and buy things and use services. And it seems like Greef Karga has even turned the old cantina from which he used to work at into a school, showing us how the priorities of the city has changed. There also seems to be a lot of money coming from the outer edges of the solar system where there are mining operations. And so you have basically everything you need here. And for all of this to work, the city of Nevarro must also now collect tax revenue from its people, either through taxes on businesses and the goods they sell, or perhaps from property taxes. Clearly, Greef Karga is now focused on expanding and rezoning new areas of the city, and it's truly a wonderful thing to see. Greef Karga has found his calling in life, and he's made a very dangerous part of the galaxy into a very safe and prosperous area of the galaxy. In Star Wars, I call that a big win. Well, guys, let me know in the comment section below what you think about the transformation of Nevarro. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our coverage of The Mandalorian. And as usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,